Gurmaigad I can call you. Agus are ta munchen the herin ag torchen the stregin agus te the elu are the realta se Barta riri yenu le going leklish na five and the water o hiu gerkim cost us moral talak. Ma yenin and realta's price in the electra has a yeru again level of issue the riven gear came agus yet the honjaltigan level should hen lilin givri tori shop fuishu agus tori sha kinchart da tiley o ata oglaru o hiu erdi he brishe lilin and givri shaw. Minister, in Cork at the weekend, 5,000 people marched against your government's failure to tackle the soaring cost of living. And I have no doubt that thousands more will make to the streets here in the capital city in Dublin this Saturday for the very same reason. Many of those who marched in Cork on Saturday had never protested before, but they felt that they had no other choice. They told their stories of cutting back on essentials, of going without, or of barely just getting by. And I want to share some of the stories that they told the media over the last number of days. Francis says, the people are being robbed. I'm frightened. I have to do without certain things to pay my electricity bill. I'm dreading the coming winter. Margaret said, it's going back to the 1950s. In the 50s, when you got up in the morning, there was only the fire to keep the whole house warm. Freezing cold floors, cold running water. It's going back to that time. Donna says, do we just buy a load of candles instead of turning on the lights? It is at that point for me, not turning on the immersion and washing in cold water in the middle of winter. And Sheila said, the cost of electricity, fuel, food is frightening. If you run a car, I really feel for anyone on a state pension. They're afraid. People are living hand to mouth. You can't budget when you don't know what is coming down the road. When you don't know what is coming down the road, Minister, that one sentence sums up all of the fears and worries that households are feeling right across the state as they try to cope. It's easy to see why people are afraid. It's so simple. Just look at what they're facing. Rents are going up, food's going up, energy going up. And the fear is especially real when it comes to the extortionate electricity bills that households face. And people are absolutely outraged when they see the scandalous hikes and standing charges by big profiteering energy companies that they're inflicting on households. These hikes are ensuring that you're fleeced even if you do all that you can to cut back on your energy use, and the government needs to act decisively. You need to cut electricity prices back to pre-crisis levels and cap them at that level to help get families through this winter. Minister, this is a simple and straightforward plan to help over 2 million households reduce their electricity bills at a time when it's most needed. Sinn Féin's plan would give certainty to households this winter. And Minister, you know that this is possible. When I raised it with you last week on the floor of the Dáil, I told you that it was happening in many other European countries. And in the last 48 hours, the Dutch and the Danes have announced price certainty for their citizens. Cutting and capping electricity prices makes sense, Minister. So what households need now is clarity. What households are begging for is certainty. Certainty that they will be able to make it through the winter. That is what a cap will do. Reduce electricity prices to pre-crisis level and fix them at that right throughout the winter. Minister, it is the right choice. It is the choice that many countries across Europe and a growing number are making. So I ask you again, Minister, will you act? Will you act to cut electricity bills back to the summer of 2021 levels, and will you cap them at that level right through the winter until the end of February?
Thank you. Mr. Ryan.
We absolutely acknowledge that these price rises are really hitting and hurting our people and businesses across the country, and we have to do everything to protect them. We also have to at every time remind our people that the reason for that is the war in Ukraine, the use of Russian government of energy as a weapon of war, which is a direct attack on our people. And yes, we will continue, as we've done over the last year, to look at the best way to do so. I don't believe the Sinn Féin plan is the right one, and I want to set out why. It is very similar to what the Tory party are looking to do. In fact, Jacob Rees-Mogg this morning, I believe, set out pretty much the same policy for Northern Ireland. You're following a Tory government approach. I don't agree with it. The first problem in principle is that it would actually benefit the better off, who tend to use more energy, tend to have the bigger houses, tend to have the bigger bills. They would benefit most from the approach that you are suggesting. Secondly, as in the Tory party approach, it would benefit the energy industries. And that is something that we don't need to do this time. What we need to do is to apply windfall charges and actually give that money back to our people rather than providing a cap where they get a free pass in any amount of after that. Thirdly, I would recommend you read Martin Wolf in the Irish Times today, taken from the Financial Times earlier in the week. The economics of this is deeply uncertain. The potential costs, the potential length, the potential effect with the public purse. And we have to be careful with that because we need it to provide for the social protection. The investment in social welfare increases through this difficult time. So it is simple, your plan, but I don't think it's the right one. And it's not easy, and every country has slightly different circumstances. You have to adopt and look at what the right approach is. But I believe our approach is the right one. First and foremost, with the likes of the investment in the fuel allowance and other social welfare provisions, because we do have to protect those lowest income first and most. Secondly, I believe you're against giving people an energy credit. Well, I argue that is actually the right approach, because such as the prices increases here, it affects everyone. And I don't believe you can just say, well, sorry, you could do it by this cap, but that really benefits the better off. Better to do the credit mixed with social welfare contributions. And third element we do need to do, because businesses are going to be hard hit with this winter particularly, is to look at business supports, which is what we're doing as part of the preparations for the budget package. And again, I think in that, we're best to target. I think there's a particular problem for a lot of small and medium businesses who happen to have some high energy use, be that in a refrigeration system, a heating system, power use, and that's down to the local shop, the local cafe, the local hairdresser, there's a whole variety of businesses that are particularly badly affected. So we should target and address that there. I think that targeted approach in social welfare and how you support business is better than the Tory giveaway which you're advocating. And at the same time, what we need to do and recognise, we've had a lot of debates in this House over the last 2 days, that the fundamental way to get us out of this is to have ambition in the developing of our own renewable power where we're not held to ransom. To also focus and really be good on reducing energy use and be energy efficient and flexible. And lastly, what we're doing is working in a European Union approach, because the real story here is that Vladimir Putin is looking to divide Europe. That's one of the key things he's looking to achieve in this next 6-12-month period. We're working in that European Energy Council and at the heads of government of the European Council to provide a united Europe response. That's why we will use European methods towards windfall taxation. That's why we will work with Europe in terms of how we reform the market, not going with the Tory party in a way that I think does not serve our needs.
Deputy Doherty.
Actually, the Minister who opposed the reforms at the European level last October. You opposed them. We've been raising these issues since last year. My colleagues here have been raising them with you. Now, you've Tories on the brain. Maybe that's because you're in bed with the Irish Tories here. The fact is, you have done the second least amount to support households and to support businesses in Europe. Now, let's look at outside of Britain. Yes, people living in Uri, people living in Strabane will have certainty in terms of their bill, but so will they in Austria, in France, in Croatia, in Poland, in Romania, and in the last 48 hours, in Netherlands they've announced it. Denmark has announced it. The Minister in Slovakia has announced that they're going to bring in price certainty for customers. Why? Because this is part of the European toolbox. The European Union set this out, that price certainty is one of the measures that the countries could introduce. Yet your government is asleep and doesn't recognise the pressures that families are under, doesn't recognise what all of those individuals that have, the comments that I put on the floor of the Dáil, the concern that they have from skyrocketing energy prices. So we need two things. We need to bring the energy prices back to where they were pre-crisis level, and then we need to keep them there for the winter. So explain to me, why do you oppose what Austria has done, what France has done, what Croatia has done, what Poland has done, what Romania has done, what the Danes have done, what the Dutch have done, or what Slovakia is going to do?
This is simple. Simple in how you reform the market, or simple in terms of immediate measures, I don't think serves the Irish public, because it's anything but simple. But in that Energy Council, we've been centrally involved in working with the Commission. I brought many of the energy ministers here to Dublin last week, where we continued to discuss what's the right approach. And every country has slightly different circumstances. But the 5-point plan presented by the Commission for the immediate response in the next 6 months is the right one. tackle the inframarginal pricing so that those generators you would give a blank cheque to pay some of the money back. Take on the fossil fuel industry in terms that they also have to make a solidarity contribution. Recognising that we need liquidity supports because this is a time at risk that the energy companies could fall. Critically, be good at energy efficiency and demand management because that's a way to save money for our people. By being clever in how we use energy, we can actually protect our people.
Please, Deputy, let the Minister answer.
The fifth measure, which is the one that hasn't been drafted into precise regulations, but that one that we are supportive of, talking to the Taoiseach and myself in terms of engagement with the energy ministers. It's capping price using our purchasing power at an international level.
You're not meant to be intervening. Sorry, the time is up. Minister, you're finished. Thank you. We go next to Deputy Councillor Murphy. Look, no, please. A little bit of decorum.